All right. Hey, Christina, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you having you on the show. You've got years and years of experience in the ABA space and in the IDD space. So we're super excited to learn a little bit from you today. First question is tell us a little bit about why you started BILT. What brought about the kind of your inspiration?
Started BILT in 2019, and this was a dream of mine to start a nonprofit organization that really kind of centered around people, their choices, and what they want to do more than sort of having a cookie cutter service. A lot of organizations that I had worked at prior sort of had a one size fits for all, and I felt that if we could change things up, give people more choice and autonomy over their lives, that it's only going to benefit them in the future.
That makes complete sense. That makes complete sense. If you don't mind, that was actually going to be another one of my questions. Tell me a little bit about how you customize your approach to fit in with what individuals actually need.
Yeah, sure. So we actually specialize in teens and adults, which adults really are sort of the forgotten population in ABA. So many people forget that once they become adults, that this is still really a big need. So sort of my thought about customizing it was obviously their goals and what they want to work on, but additionally, I've created a whole center where it's not a day program. We won't ever be a day program. People aren't just going to come here and sit here for 6 hours, but that every day they have different things that people can choose to come to or they never have to go to at all. So, for example, today they take public transportation, they go into Boston, they have some lunch. If they like to do that, if that's a goal of theirs to learn to travel train, tonight there's bingo, which is more of a social recreation, and then tomorrow's music therapy. So, really, the idea is you can come to everything if you like it, but if you don't like any of it, then we can just do one-to-one sessions working on those individualized goals.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I like that. It gives them the choice, not necessarily their caretaker or even your team of saying, "Hey, you have to do these things," which makes a lot of sense.
For sure. And it also obviously reduces behaviors because when people have more autonomy over their
Yep.
life and they feel they're in control, they have less reason to have challenging behavior.
Absolutely. They want to do this thing, so they are going to be invested in it, which is just how we all work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. So you've advocated for a lot of policy reforms. Can you share one policy that you'd love to see take place in Massachusetts or beyond?
Sure. So it's kind of already been passed. It's called the Real Lives Law of 2014. It's supposed to be, followed right now, but it's really not. So there's a lot of public testimony. There's a lot of advocating to have this law followed. And basically, what this law means is basically the whole essence of BILT is that people should have choice in their life. And that you should be able to have flexible services where you can pick and choose what benefits your life most. So, for example, maybe if someone has a day program and they really enjoy it, they shouldn't have to go there 5 days a week if it's not benefiting them. They should be able to do that with other services and sort of combine services to better fit their life. So this law, it was hard because interpretations were not written for it. The law kind of came out for almost 10 years. And so now they're actually writing the guidelines of this law, and I hope that it can be sort of finalized and really kind of, presented clearly to the public that needs it pretty soon.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's often how it goes with new laws, right? It's great you
Yeah.
have it. Now we have to actually find ways to implement it, and no one really knows how that's going to happen.
Yes.
Most of the time, at least, right? Um, Very cool. So I know you all emphasize making dreams happen and making them a reality for the individuals you serve. Can you tell us a story about those one of those dreams that you helped achieve?
Sure. So one of our individuals, when we first started working with her, she's a very intelligent lady, but she uses an AAC to communicate. During COVID, she essentially lost her day program. She almost lost all of her ability to communicate. She was kicked out of several day programs for her behavior. And so now we have worked with this individual very hard to create coping skills, to create plans in place for her, to really build up the rapport and trust of staff too, because that had been long pushed to the wayside. It was more, she kind of associated staff with just all being compliant. And so once we gave her a choice and kind of said, we're not going to force you to do anything, but we would like to help you. Let's try to get your communication. We want to know what you want for us. we started to see tremendous progress. And so now in 3 years, she's someone that is walking 3 miles, where before when we started, she was walking 2 minutes and then would have, a behavioral issue. She's now riding the train. She's now able to be around peers. She's going to a pool party we're having on Monday. So it's amazing that we've come so far to the fact that now when staff meet her, they're like, oh, she's great. She's, one of our, easiest individuals. And I'm like, how far we have come in 3 years, to really get her to be able to explore more of the world, but actually enjoy the world too.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And it must be so rewarding to be able to be part of those stories on a regular basis.
It really is. Like, that's really what keeps me motivated because running a nonprofit's not always easy. But when I'm feeling a little down, I just go out and hang out with the individuals, and I'm like, this is why we're doing it, and this is why this matters.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Um, so, sexuality education is a big part of your work. How do you and your team approach it with respect and keeping keeping things moving in the right direction?
Sure. So, we find that a lot of individuals, they either have never had any sort of sexual education or the sexual education they've gotten has been horrible. Like, I had an individual once say to me when I showed him a condom, like, oh, that's what they put on bananas. And, like, really, his whole life, he just thought that, like, you put a condom on a banana and there, the dots aren't connected. So, we kind of take a two-prong approach, sexuality training, in kind of two series. The first series more focuses on the ideas of boundary and consent, advocating for yourself but respecting others, and what to do if, you really like someone but they don't feel the same way about you. And then our second series kind of more goes into things like pregnancy, STDs, actuality of implications of having sexual relationships. And so how we do it is we start with everyone with a sexuality assessment because we want to kind of gauge their baseline. Obviously, if someone only needs to know about boundary and consents, we don't really need to talk about STDs, the first time. We just need to talk about safety for people. And we also do another whole training series for the guardians and the caregivers, because
Mm,
oftentimes they're like, I never thought my kid with, Down syndrome would be talking about like wanting to have a sexual relationship. So really, we do a lot of coaching about this is normal. This is a normal human need, and we have to be respectful but also supportive. There's risk and dignity, but we need to make sure that they are, safe when they're doing these activities. And that's always my main thing to hone in on.
that's awesome. That's awesome. That's a really thought out approach. You can tell you guys have spent time thinking about it, which a lot of groups don't, which is awesome. That is really cool. All right, so last question then. For those seeking to work in this space, what's one piece of advice that you would offer them before they take their first job, before they take their first internship?
I would say that go in listening. A lot of people assume capabilities, they assume what a disability means. They'll even read paperwork and assume that this paperwork is that person. So I always tell new people when they start that you could have someone that has, a very intensive behavior plan. You're seeing a snapshot of that person. You're not really seeing how wonderful they are. You're kind of seeing the lows of the lows and the worst of the worst. So I think asking questions, I think being, genuinely curious and like trying to find out the reason why someone might act like that, why a family might act like that, will be much better than coming in with an idea of knowing, everything or assuming that you know everything about that person.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's good advice in almost every career, right? Is
Yeah.
listen first, ask a lot of questions, and actually pay attention. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christina. We really appreciate it. Appreciate having some of your insights, and I love that we get to help broadcast a little bit about, like you said, kind of the forgotten population in autism services, which is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. This is great.